Blog Talk Radio.
This is America First Patriot Podcast. Defending freedom and liberty is our motto. We put God first and politics second. I'm your Patriot host, Chauncey Brown. Welcome to the podcast this evening. We have an exciting podcast lined up. We have an American First candidate running for U.S. Senate out of Rhode Island. He's a veteran. He has been a part of his community for most of his life, and we are proud to have him, Ray Mckay in the studio this evening. Without any further ado, let me welcome Ray into the studio and let him share with you who he is and what he plans to do for our country. Welcome to the podcast, Ray.
Chauncey, thank you for having me, sir. And to the ladies and gentlemen who are listening in this evening, thank you for taking the time out of your life to listen to us. These are very important times for us throughout this nation as we get ready to face the 2024 elections, and it is time for us to motivate and to get involved. I'm an 11-year Army veteran, 30-year IT professional, and I'm a constitutional conservative Republican. I've been involved in state party for 30-plus years. I'm a father, a grandfather. I've got 3 dogs, and I enjoy life to its fullest. What pushed me today to run, and I won't say today, we've started this trip of ours, or this journey, if we would, a little over a year ago when we first incorporated in the state of Rhode Island, knowing that Washington was bad. They weren't representing the people. They weren't taking care of themselves. Actually, they are taking care of themselves. They're not taking care of us, we the people.
Exactly.
And that's what pushed me to step forward. We need a change in Washington. Our current leadership they've got a narrative going on that attacks the American worker, that doesn't support our senior citizens, that does not take care of national security. We've got an open border, which is a crisis. They want to call Republicans extremist and MAGAs extremist, and yet you let 7 million people, you don't know who they are, into this country. My question is, as an 11-year Army veteran, how many sleeper cells did we let in? What's going to happen next year because of what's going on, because of the policies of this current administration, which our sitting senator in Rhode Island happily supports. Let's get to our senior citizens real quick. We take a look at that. Everybody says Republicans are going to steal the Social Security. Well, the reality is that's not going to happen. We're going to fix it. We're going to work on it. My goal in life is to get down to Washington and put laws in place where we don't attack Social Security anymore. We stop raiding the trust fund. We start rebuilding the trust fund. Democrats love their senior citizens because they're easy to scare. They're older and they're concerned about life. And when everybody repeats the same lie, sometimes it sounds like the truth. The reality is, with this current administration, this year's budget that we're just ending, $4.3 trillion proposed by the Biden administration went through the Senate, which Senator Whitehouse is the budget chair. Not a dime to shore up Social Security. What you want to hear from the left, from my opponent, is that, well, everybody has to pay their fair share. We're going to go after the wealthy. There is not enough money in America, in America's wealthy people, to pay for what they're doing to this government. Right now, we're at $34 trillion in debt because of this crazy spending, and that needs to be reined in. It pushes inflation, which hurts everybody. It hurts the senior citizens, obviously. It hurts the low-income families. It hurts the new generation coming in right now. These young kids just graduating college and everything else, they've got their debt from college, and then you've got an economy that's crazy. So many, many things have pushed me to the forefront. Again, an 11-year Army veteran. I love this country. Couldn't want to do more for this country. So this is my second time answering the call to service. My first time was my 11 years of active duty. Spent that in Germany and in Oklahoma. And now it's time again to go back down to Washington and fix the swamp.
Ray, thank you very much for your service to this country. And thank you again for wanting to stand up for the people and the Constitution again. You know, when you take your oath of office as a serviceman, it never expires.
That is correct.
My father was a World War II Navy veteran. I didn't have the pleasure of going into the service because I went to college. We need servicemen and people like you in constitutional conservatives in office. Not only this current administration, but we have both sides of the aisle, hurting all of the American people. And like you just mentioned, we see it across the board in so many issues. Today...
It is true. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. It's okay. Go ahead.
So it is true with everything that is going on. Again, both sides of the aisle, the swamp needs to be fixed. And Republicans need to get back to constitutional conservatives. America has to come first. We are a big-hearted nation. We are a very benevolent nation.
Yeah.
But don't take advantage of us.
That's right. That's exactly where I was getting ready to go, is we must be careful, and I remind my listeners and my followers, any politician that calls for democracy wants to undermine and usurp the authority of the law of the land, which is the U.S. Constitution. We are a federal constitutional republic. We are not a democracy.
That is correct.
And these politicians that continue to call for democracy, those individuals do not abide by the U.S. Constitution. And that's why you hear, especially the left, talking about we need democracy. Donald Trump's going to take democracy away from us. No, we don't have a democracy. We have a republic. And he's going to ensure, even by his Supreme Court picks, that we have people that are going to abide by the Constitution. And that's the biggest problem today that I see in politicians representing people, is they forget when they put their hand on the Bible and swear their oath of office. Not only are you bound by the Constitution, but you're bound by the Bible that you swore to. And these politicians forget that. The consequences are going to be devastating for them, whether it be God's judgment or the people's judgment. And we see now, as a result of the past 3 years, more and more Americans are standing up and pushing back and calling for liberty and justice for all.
And for all is a very big
that's why it's
statement.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why it's important that we get people elected like you, constitutional conservatives, that are going to rein in the dollar, knock down all of these regulations, question the amendments to the Constitution, are they legal? We have a lot of work to do to change the direction in which this country is going. And anyone that stands up like yourself to take on the task of the elephant in the room, you will always be in my prayers. I was in politics. I know how dirty it is, and how corrupt it is. That's why I'm proud that more veterans are getting involved in running. We just had a couple this last cycle, a couple of veterans, Corey Mills in Florida, many more that got elected. The most difficult thing I find, the challenge, is that when you get there, is the opposition from our own party. That's going to be a challenge, trying to negate that while trying to get bipartisan support for whatever bills you want to pass. The way the Republicans and Democrats in Congress are running this government. I'm 61 years old, and I can't believe that I'm witnessing this in our country and what Congress is doing to the American people, or the lack thereof. Go real quick, if you will. I want to go to Rhode Island for a second.
Sure. How
has Rhode Island been impacted by inflation, by this administration overtaxing? Of course, we got rising prices, gas, food, you name it. But talk about Rhode Island for a second. You can identify the problems there, the low unemployment rate, or what have you. Share with us some of your concerns in Rhode Island.
Well, thank you for that question. Rhode Island is an older population as we've been migrating. So we have a lot more senior citizens than we did in the past. So obviously they're being hurt right away. And we have a good population of senior citizens who stay abreast of what's going on. So obviously with running for the office, you're out there meeting the people, you're going to coffees and whatever meetings people will hold for you and host for you. And this one young lady, she stood up and she said the retirees, Social Security pension people, they get X amount of dollars. And I says, that is the national average, yes, ma'am. And they said the illegal aliens are getting Y. I said, yes, ma'am, that is also correct. And she says, what are you going to do about it? And then her husband stood up and said, by the way, we just got 8% last year. We're going to get 3.5% this year increases. The inflation rate, for what they're concerned with, you hear the national inflation rate, which is whatever, 6%, 3%, 0.2% in December. Their inflation rate, because they're focused mostly on food, because at their age of life, they're not worried about buying stuff. They've already done all the buying of big items and big cars and refrigerators and all that type of stuff. They're relaxed. Mm-hmm. They're just here to relax for the rest of their time. Their biggest issue is food. The food prices are up 12, 15, 18%, which is far above the inflation rate, but that's because of the way the federal administration monitors and reports on inflation. So that's their concern. And that's one of the big concerns in Rhode Island, is our senior population and inflation. And inflation is being driven by crazy government spending. You're printing more money than you have. We're getting to a point with the $34 trillion where we're going to have trouble paying the interest only. The interest only right now is between $600 and $750 billion a year. You get nothing for that. You get nothing for that. You just pay it out. You don't get any soldiers defending you. Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get any soldiers defending you? Go ahead.
No. There's two issues. You talk about the inflation rate as it relates to the food prices, which is ironic, because China, our country is buying. They're taking our chickens, sending them to China for processing them, and selling them back in the American market. Same thing with beef. I don't know if a lot of people realize that. We're getting hurt big time.
I ran to last year, 2 years ago, I ran to a group of Texans, and they were all over this and educated me like I had no business knowing. I'm like, okay. And they were telling me how the processing works and the way the cattle is sold and then come back and everything else. And they had one of the senators and one of the reps down there, one of the congressmen down there, trying to prevent that type of stuff with legislation in Washington. And you're right, all this stuff going overseas and coming back. One of our other issues in Rhode Island is the wind farm. So our sitting senator is one of the big green guys. His narrative is all about Greenpeace. Not Greenpeace, but the green economy. My apologies. I spent many years in Germany, so Greenpeace flashback. But anyhow, the green economy, the assault on our fisheries here, and NOAA has a document under the Commerce. Gina Raimondo, our former governor, has a document out there that states that with the installation of these windmills off our coast, we're going to decrease our fish take by 30%. So my question is, if the Rhode Island fishermen are going to earn 30% less pay, how do they pay their mortgage? How do they put food on the table for their kids? Are you kidding me? So we have to be good stewards of the planet, and we need to be taking a look at nuclear rather than this offshore stuff that we're doing. And we just
Ray,
saw New Jersey collapsed. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No, it's ironic when you're talking about going green. We have the worst electrical grid out of all major developed countries in the world. And the country's only divided in two electrical grids, and Texas has their own electrical grid. The monopoly on electric, well, let me back up for a second. With these two grids only, and then not breaking down the grids, all the enemy has to do is drop an EMP.
Right.
They're pushing Green New Deals, yet the infrastructure of our electric in most of these older cities that are 100, 200 years old are above ground. We look at the blackout of 2005 that took out the whole East Coast. That's an example of when you're all on the same grid, how it just shut down everything. So I don't know what the answer is, but I would hope, as a part of infrastructure, that we would work on our electrical grid.
And I agree.
Because, like I said, it's the worst in the most developed countries in the world. So them wanting to go green and doing all of this windmill stuff and everything, they want to do electric cars. We don't have an electric grid to sustain what they want to do. At least that's my opinion.
And your opinion is being borne out. We just had CBS News report the other day out of Chicago how well that electric is going. As soon as the cold came in, their bitter cold, it's Chicago. Everybody knows it's Chicago. We were the politicians planning when they said these electric cars are going to be great. Typically, it takes 45 minutes to charge an electric car. In Chicago, 3 days ago, it was taking over 2 hours, and some of the cars, their batteries died, so they couldn't be charged. The charging stations froze up. So we have, and you're right,
exactly.
Speaking about the infrastructure, we have the cart before the horse. we don't have an infrastructure in place to fully support what they want to do. Is there a place for solar panels? Perhaps. Is there a place for windmills? Perhaps. But let's get the science and let's get everything done right first. Don't tell me that my fishermen in Rhode Island have to go hungry or have to sell their homes or have to find a new way of doing living after they've been doing it for 3 generations, because your narrative is such, your half-baked narrative is such that you're going to attack the American worker. You take a look at our auto industry. We don't have any issues in Rhode Island with the auto industry, maybe suppliers, but as far as the manufacturing and everything else, the new rules out of the EPA requiring a certain amount of electric vehicles be manufactured will reduce, and this is from the UAW, this isn't from a Republican issue, this is from the United Auto Workers Union, it will reduce their workforce because of the different components and everything else by 20 to 30%. So you're going to decimate. So first we're attacking Rhode Island fishermen. Now we're attacking the American Auto Union. And this administration is supposed to be union friendly. The Democrats are supposed to love the unions, and they're killing off the workers. We already did that with the Keystone Pipeline. All those union workers and everything else that were on that, we killed that off, so they had to find new jobs. Energy independence, which is security, national security, we've walked away from that to go down to this green narrative. And it's just not a good place, and we need to right the ship.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Yeah, they're bringing the cart before the horse, and like you just stated, it's going to be a ton of problems. Batteries freezing. I mean, it's just not. That's a part of the swamp. These lobbyists go in there, they pad all these politicians with money, and now we're going to support the Green New Deal. Like you said, it's hurting American workers. We need to start putting America first, American citizens first. And this government is so far away from helping America and its citizens. We're in trouble, and we need all hands on deck for this election.
We definitely do.
County, down to precinct committee members. We need to be there. I did that for 20 or 30 years. Of course, I got tired of doing that. I actually got tired of the corruption that I was witnessing within the Republican Party in my area. So I said I have to walk away from this because it's not about the welfare of the party to look out for the people. It was special interest, political power and money. That was their goal, and I could not subscribe to that, so I had to walk away. Ironically, though, it seems like it's the same thing I've witnessed over the past several years on the federal level. I've argued for 30 years that if Republicans want to really help people, they need to go into these cities. There's a lot of Republicans in these cities, almost like it's an unwritten rule that Republicans stay out of these cities, and they stay in the suburbs. And it's almost like, well, I know it's like that in New Jersey. It's a uniparty. The Republicans and Democrats, they share power at the expense of people. And I can't accept that, and I can't be a part of that, and I wasn't able to bring about change myself. So, I'm looking at the national level. How can I have an impact on the discussion? And that's why, I have the podcast, But people are waking up. People in the black community, Hispanic community are waking up to the Democrats taking advantage of them and delivering no services to them. Poor education, high crime, drugs, we can go on and on, guns.
Exactly.
And it's a shame that the Democratic Party always wants to blame Republicans for their failed management. I'm like, how do you blame Republicans for mismanagement of Democrats in those cities?
And
I always pose
here's
that question,
the answer.
of course.
And
Thank
here's
you.
the answer: how you do it. And we have to give credit where credit's due. Their messaging is very good. They will shake your hand, look you straight into the eye, and bold-faced lie, and you expect that it's the truth because they do it so well. The biggest problem with Republicans, two problems. One of my first donors from last year, he says, "Ray, do you know why Republicans always lose?" I'm like, "Please enlighten me." He said, "Ray, the Republicans lose because they're always on defense. So you have to go on offense. It has to be balanced. You need defense. It has to be balanced, 50-50 balance, but you lead with offense. So our messaging must improve. Our messaging across the nation must improve. Because the Democrats are very good at doing their lies and making people think, oh, they're there for us. Because obviously they're not. A $4.3 trillion federal budget with $0 to shore up Social Security, yet all the senior citizens will tell you that Senator Whitehouse and President Biden are going to protect their Social Security. Ladies and gentlemen, they had 3 budgets to do it, and they haven't done it yet. So that's a huge issue. Messaging is going to be a very big issue, very, very big issue for me. And the next thing throughout the nation, going down to the precincts levels like you talked, is going to be election integrity. Election integrity is going to be huge throughout the nation this year. We have to be focused. We have to be sharp. Here in Rhode Island, getting back to all politics is local, from Tippy O'Neill, God rest his soul, we've gone and put into law some of the most loose and open voting rules in the world. And it sickens me. It's sad. It's not good for America. It's not good for the Republic at all. And it opens the door for lots of abuse. People will say, show the abuse. You go and you start showing the abuse. We've got some activists here in Rhode Island who've helped clean up the rolls, the voter rolls, of thousands and tens of thousands of names that were on the rolls that should never have been on the rolls. So voter integrity throughout the nation is going to be huge this year.
I couldn't agree more. And another thing the Republican Party on the national level must do is you have to have you have to have poll workers there. If you're not a precinct person, you can have poll monitors. We saw what happened in Pennsylvania in the last presidential election, where they couldn't watch them tally up the votes or whatever. We need to have people on the ground in these cities as well, because that's where the corruption is going to take place. You know, we looked at 2,000 Mules, where people were putting in hundreds and hundreds of mail-in ballots, and you're only allowed to put one in the box. You know,
yep.
Election integrity, but as a Republican Party, they need to have more boots on the ground on Election Day.
Well, but
they have to, and like I said, go ahead, Ray.
Go ahead. The good thing is,
no, it's okay.
Go
go ahead.
Saying here, at least for my home state, the good thing is with my home state of Rhode Island, the Republicans are at least aware of it, and they're trying to push the message forward that we need volunteers, and that's the hardest thing with this. When you have one side that has corrupted the issue, where the other side has to get tons of volunteers to make sure the corruption doesn't happen, and everybody's busy working their lives, earning a paycheck, taking care of the family, taking the kids to basketball. I'm too busy. I can't take care of local politics. That's what the Democrats want. They want you to be busy in your life because they found a way to keep in power forever. And unless you sacrifice some family time, and it's horrible to say that, but we as American citizens are going back to the positions of the founding of this nation where the farmers had to sacrifice their family life, their time, to put into the nation. We're getting to that point again where we need to reinvest into the nation. We need to reinvest into the sovereignty of the republic. And people are going to have to take a stand, and they're going to have to say, well, Junior, this Tuesday, I can't do basketball with you. Or you're going to have a sick day, you're not going in, because these guys are taking away our liberties, they're taking away our freedoms, they're assaulting the Constitution, and Mom and Dad need to be there to stop it. So when you grow up, you have a good nation to be in.
Agreed. You know, we look at the assault on parents from the DOJ at school board meetings, calling them domestic terrorists. That's not American. When parents can't stand up children's rights, that's a problem. That's a huge problem.
That is a
says,
very
well, we know it's. Yeah, the government says, well, we know what you need. No, we don't need critical race theory. We don't need somebody to tell us that I'm a victim and you're the victor. We don't need somebody telling 4- and 5-year-olds about masturbation. I mean, I understand we're going through a spiritual battle.
And we are.
Between God,
between
good and evil. And that's really where we are right now. We're witnessing Satan's puppets do the bidding for him. It has never been more clear that you're either on the side of God or you're on the side of Satan.
And you're right. We've got some great people stepping up. The assault on the parents and for questioning. No, you're not allowed to question what I teach in school. Wrong. Those are my children, not yours. This is not a cradle-to-grave government. You don't get to dictate what my children learn. You're there in school to promote the nation and make these children smarter. Okay, at 5 years old, they can't do this, they can't do that, but all of a sudden they can decide what gender they are, and their parents are not allowed to know. Wrong, all day long. And you take a look at reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Yeah, I was going to say, what happened to reading, writing, and arithmetic? What happened to critical thinking skills? The teacher's responsibility is to teach children how to learn. I always say that's the parent's job to educate the children. I always said that. I got 4 children. I always said it's my job to educate them, but it's the teacher's job to teach them how to learn, how to comprehend, how to critical think. And they're so far away. This woke, which is pathetic. This woke, whatever you want to call that crap. I guess I'm too old. That should have nothing to. That should, Ray. I thought that I was a moderate conservative most of my life. Now, I'm considered ultra right wing conservative, which is sad because I'm just. It's going through my head now is you talk about messaging, and now Chauncey is considered a white supremacist, neo-Nazi, right-winger. Really? I'm a black person. My religion is Judaism, and I'm a constitutional conservative. But the Democrats want to say that MAGA is about white supremacy.
Exactly, and someone needs to explain that to everybody. We've got so many people from so many different walks of life that consider themselves MAGA. And I didn't know about your second part, your religion, but I knew about the first and third.
Exactly.
And The fact is, you're on this side of life. So how in Lord's name are you, people like me? Okay, well, wait, I fall into, I'm an old guy, I'm white, I'm privileged.
Well, you're only 2 years older than me. You're only 2 years older than me. I got your DOB.
There you go.
So we're young seniors.
Oh, we are. Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Age is just a number. I'm about to go to do some more Spartan races. I love those things. Pay people money to abuse me.
There you go, Ray.
So, but again, getting back to this, we've got some marvelous people from all walks of life, and the narrative, again, messaging. They've got the narrative going on where Trump, who has supported so many people in this past, the Reverend Jesse Jackson when he's running for president. All
of them. Al Sharpton. I can go down the whole list.
Came out and spoke well of these gentlemen prior to becoming president. And now, once he's president, he's the evil personified. He's the Ku Klux Klan reincarnated all in one. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Just because he got elected president, because he beat your substandard candidate? Not our fault. He woke something in America, and that scares everybody. That scares the swamp, that he woke. People who were not involved, he didn't win by Republicans. Donald Trump did not win by Republicans. He won by the people who got tired of voting. And all of a sudden they found a reason to come back out and vote again.
You know, as we're talking about Trump, you know, I've always felt like I was the black sheep or the outcast. You know, I'm black, I'm a conservative in a blue state, in a Democratic city. Donald Trump, you know, I could talk about his policy issues, which I think are phenomenal because it helped everybody from the bottom to the top. Okay. Now, give me a second. I'm having a senior moment. I just lost my train of thought on where I was going. Help me, Ray. Help me out. Where was I going?
Mars and back.
Oh, okay. I'm back. I'm back now. The disenfranchised person like myself, who's always felt like I was an outcast, I found a place where I was accepted. So to speak.
There you go. Yep.
You know, and Mega and those people have embraced Chauncey. No one has ever come at me with any racial epithets, any type, nothing like that. Only embraced me with love and God. And you're right.
There's no other reason to do anything else but.
Exactly. And you're right. Donald Trump has touched the humanity of people. He's educated them. He's exposed the corruption. And he accomplished in 4 years what career politicians have still failed to accomplish. He's gaining more and more.
What he accomplished is not what anybody expected him to accomplish. It is.
Exactly. You know, for everybody, you know, I go into the black community in the hood. Yo, we need Donald Trump back, man, because there's no money for us. Small businesses. I'm getting hurt, Chauncey. I want Donald Trump back. And trust me, some of these people are afraid to say publicly, I support Donald Trump, because they're afraid of what people might say. Well, you know, you catch them by themselves and say, listen, I'm hurting. The economy was much better when Trump is here. And you're talking about Rhode Island and the fishery. You know, people are starving. And, you know, it's just sad that they left the border open for their new voting bloc. Because that's what it's about.
Oh, it is all.
Because the Democrats are losing African Americans and Hispanics at alarming rates. They're waking up. I mean, I've been fighting this since I was a kid, and my father was fighting it when in the 60s and 70s, and he was a Republican then.
Wow.
But it's sad. I'm sorry.
No, I was
Ray,
a while for your dad being a Republican in the 60s and 70s. And what hurts my heart the most is I thought in the 80s we had it taken care of. I thought we were good. I thought race relations in the 80s were good. And I say that
I couldn't agree more.
Because we all got along. We were all together. I was on active duty, and my brothers who were in the same room with me, we were brothers from a different mother. And some
racial divide started with the Obama administration. Heavily.
And you're right. There is one gentleman, and I am very saddened. He is one gentleman who would have sealed race relations in America because he came from a mixed family. He came from and exceeded with a mixed family. That could have been the golden ring to unite America, but he chose a different path. He chose a path of division. It is. He had the opportunity to be a kingmaker, and he chose not to.
Yep.
And it was a choice.
Well, I think he did. I think him and Hillary both did their thesis on Marxism for law school. If I'm not mistaken, I know definitely Hillary, and I think maybe Barack Obama. So I got to double check. Marxism has never worked. Socialism has failed everywhere. And, these greedy politicians, may God have mercy on their souls, are selling their seats for profits. All we have to do is look at their bank statements, look at their records of financial disclosures. How do you become millionaires on a taxpayer-paid salary of $170,000 a year?
Agreed.
That's not being honest.
Yeah. No, something else is going on, and we have to get to the bottom of it.
Without question. Exactly. And most good people don't want to be involved in politics because they know how corrupt it could be, But thank God for people like you having the courage to stand up, because we need people like you across this country that are going to stand up for the people, not for the lobbyists, not for the party. And I'm hoping and praying that 2024 brings out 100 million voters. Because and I know they're doing everything they can to stop Trump from getting elected. And I can't imagine what would happen if he didn't get elected.
I am concerned if he does not. I don't have good thoughts for the country if he does not.
Exactly,
I don't know unless we happen to take both houses, the Congress and the Senate. If we don't take both houses and we lose the presidency, I don't think the nation is going to be recognizable in 4 years after that. It's almost not recognizable.
Unfortunately, I have to.
Getting back to the Ronald Reagan's shining city on the hill, and that's where we need to be. We need to be the beacon of hope for the world, because this is the last place. Our Constitution, which has survived for 200 plus years now. What a document. What a reaching document. But when people start, it actually meant this. No, you can't interpret. You have words in black and white, and you have to go by the words on black and white. You cannot interpret somebody's meaning who's been dead and buried for 200 years. Stop it. You are not doing seances and with wiki boards and everything else and reaching out to the dead. Those words that are written down are there. You don't like the words? Change the words. Amend the Constitution, which means everybody in the United States of America knows what you're doing, because 37 states have to vote to amend the Constitution.
Exactly. And when Congress unilaterally amends or puts in amendments to the Constitution without the 37 states, I wonder if that's legal.
So it's never.
If those amendments.
It's never an amendment. What they do, they create these quasi policies and government agencies. Like right now, our fisheries here in Rhode Island. We've got a young lady, Megan Lapp, who's doing yeoman's work, battling the craziness going on. They're up at the Supreme Court now with Chevron. The Chevron 1984 Chevron ruling. I'll call it a ruling. There's another word for it, and I'm missing it at the moment. I'll claim senior moment. But anyhow, that's from the Supreme Court right now. That's in front of the Supreme Court.
It's okay, Ray.
The hardest thing with running for the United States Senate is there are so many things that a senator needs to be aware of. And going through an election cycle and going in front of the voters, ask and expect you to have answers. And there's so much out there. I will become one of 330 million people. There's 100 of us out of 330 million people. And so I represent Rhode Island, 1 million people. I'm one of 2 senators for Rhode Island, and each state has 2 senators. And there's 100 of us to figure out 330 million people.
Yeah, running for U.S. Senator is it's a big job. You know, and not only do you have to be, like you said, knowledgeable and in touch with Rhode Island, but the whole country. You know, it's a big responsibility being a U.S. Senator. You know, we only have a couple of minutes left. Hopefully you'll be able to come on again because we talked about a lot of issues.
Love to be back on, sir.
Yeah, I would love to have you back on as well because I'd like to delve more into our federal education system, which I think should be disbanded. That should be left up to the states. There's so much overlapping in the federal government, the bureaucracy, that becomes a political patronage mill. We need to start cutting those things out on the federal level, you know, and returning states right back to states and let states make their own decision. You know, we saw what the federal government did or attempted to do with COVID, you know, which I was appalled. You allowed liquor stores to stay open, but you cited religious institutions.
Oh, that was horrendous.
You know, yeah, you know, like I said, that is totally satanic in nature. That's the one place that we should have been able to go to is to the mosque, the temple, to church, you know, to be able to see comfort with our fellow believers and with God.
That's right.
You know,
in time of need.
We've witnessed our government going into complete state mode, whether it be the parents of school districts, J6ers, Department of Justice has really gotten out of control. And I hope that we can get it back to what it is meant to be, to help deter crime, rather than trying to put charges on American citizens. You know, J6 at best was an unfortunate incident. There were bad actors there, but all those people were not bad.
No.
And even the sentences that they handed out for J6ers with no criminal history, putting them in prison. And I talk about this on our spaces, Free J6 political prisoners on Twitter, maybe for trespassing. Now they're considered domestic terrorists. They're not domestic terrorists. That's the government going after people, mega patriots, people that believe in America, believe in the Constitution, those are the people that this government is going after. And that has to stop. Because the role of the government is to protect the people, not arrest the people. And this current administration has done nothing to protect American citizens. They've done the opposite. And I'm going to keep you in prayer.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm going to keep you and your family. Going to keep you and your family in prayer, because I know, you're in the devil's den, and you have to keep your head up and ask God for all His protection. Because you're dealing with a lot of untrustworthy people. I spent most of my life in politics. My father did. It's a contact sport, But at the end of the day,
contact sport, yes.
At the end of the day, we know God wins, and as long as we continue to put God first and let Him lead our steps, we will win the battle. We might lose a couple of wars here and there, but we're going to win the battle. Because God said that as long as you have faith in a mustard seed, you can move mountains. And that's what we're going to do as a people. And I'm so proud and blessed to be connected to people like yourself and other constitutional conservatives and other Americans, and other people that put God first. He is lining up all His people now for His purpose. And I'm thankful to be a part of God's family. Ray, is there anything that you would like to share in closing to the people of America and Rhode Island?
Sure, just real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to reach out to you today and to listen to me, or if not, at the podcast later on. And we all need help. And I need fundraising, and I need volunteers. So for those Rhode Islanders, for volunteers and donating, and nationwide for donating, please go to my website and find out more about me, see if I am worth your time and effort. And my website is www.mckay, MCKAY, for Senate, that's MckayforSenate.com. And I ask for all your support, and if we have a primary, I ask for your vote in the primary and in the general election.
Ray, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule. I had a wonderful conversation with you. We could have kept going for another hour.
Easily.
I'm excited to have you back on it. Yeah, I'm excited to have you back on again. Thank you very much. God bless you. I will keep you and your family in prayer as you're running for this office, and I hope to have you on before August. God bless you, Ray, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Chauncey. Take care.
For those that are tuning in, you're listening to America First Patriot Podcast. Defending freedom and liberty is our motto. We put God first and politics second. We were blessed and proud to have in the studio America First candidate Ray Mckay, running for U.S. Senate in Rhode Island. His link to his website is also in the description of the podcast. You can click on his name. It'll take you to his website. Please, whatever you can donate, every little bit helps and every little bit counts. If you can't make a donation, please reach out to his campaign. Doesn't matter where you are in the country, you could help make phone calls for Ray Mckay to get elected to Rhode Island State Senate. U.S. Senate. We need American First Patriots. We need constitutional conservatives to restore liberty and justice in our country. Ray is that guy for Rhode Island, and we all need to support him. Everyone in the country needs to stand up. We have to win congressional races. We have to win U.S. Senate races. And we have to win the presidency. But that's going to take all of us to get involved at some level in this election to help our people get elected. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight and listening to the podcast. We're going to be off Wednesday night. We'll be back on Monday. Please check for updates on Twitter and all social media platforms for our next podcast. God bless you all. Remember, keep the faith. Put God first and politics second. And we know if we have God on our side, who could be against us? God bless you all, and thank you for tuning in. Good night now.